And I wanted to thank everyone so much for being here. I think I know most people. My name is Jamie Hazelton. I'm an integrative health and well-being coach, and I did my graduate studies at the University of Minnesota, where I am going to be presenting my research, my capstone on building resiliency in people with traumatic brain injury. I see there's a lot of familiar faces on here from people from past lives, as well as some new people. So thank you everyone for coming, and the new people, thank you for coming and checking out this presentation on health beyond diet, exercise, and disease. Right now, I'm actually gonna go through and mute everyone just to make sure there's no background noise. And I do want to let everyone know that because of this presentation and the Wi-Fi, I do have good Wi-Fi where I'm at, but sometimes it does lag. So if it lags, I have the chat button up, and don't be afraid to chat me and say if something lagged, or unmute yourself and just let me know, because I want to make sure that you guys are getting all the information that I'm presenting today. So with that, I'm going to get started, and I'm going to share my screen. All right, so one of the best ways that I present is actually by standing up. So today I'm going to be standing up and giving this presentation, and I hope that everyone can see it. So today's presentation, like I mentioned, is on health beyond diet, exercise, and disease. The reason why I'm giving this presentation today is because I feel like in society, we have a very limited view of what health is, and we're always bombarded by eating healthy, making sure that we're exercising, and if you have a disease or not. But in reality, I believe that health is much more expansive than that. And before we get started, what I'd like to invite you all to do is do a beginner's mind. And so what a beginner's mind is, and I learned this within my program, it's a space where you let go of judgment and let go of things that you might have known before, and really enter into the space of curiosity and presence. So thinking of curiosity like being a child, or seeing a child playing in a sandbox, and picking up like the grains of sand, and just being very curious. If you can just imagine a child doing that, or you being a child when you're younger, just looking up and just having this immense curiosity. The second thing is having this space of presence. So it's very easy to think about all the logistics it took to get on this call, coming on Zoom. Maybe you're a little late, maybe you're a little flustered, it's early in the morning, it's Memorial Day, as well as what's going on later today. Maybe you have some plans later on, and it's very easy for us to get distracted with something in the past or something in the future. So with this beginner's mind and entering into a state of presence helps us create a better learning environment. So that's one thing that I really want everyone to facilitate and have today, is just this idea of having a beginner's mind and curiosity and presence that allows you to truly be present and have a beginner's mind and facilitate learning. The second thing that I have us do is connect with breath. So I start this with every single one of my health coaching sessions. So as I mentioned, I am an integrative health coach. And one thing that we really need to do is very important, is establishing presence. So same reasoning as before with beginner's mind. There's a lot that goes on in the day before the session, a lot that goes on afterwards. And so by connecting to the presence allows us to just be fully here in the present and help facilitate learning. And one way for us to connect with the present moment is by connecting with our breath. So I'm going to be running through a little grounding exercise with you all. And I'm going to stop sharing. And if you want, I can invite video. I know I have a bunch of names up on the screen, and I would definitely love to see everyone if I could. So maybe I'm just going to go through really quick and ask to start the chat, then I can see everyone's faces. And if you don't want to, that's completely fine too. All righty. So as we get settled in, for this present moment, I invite you all just to sit back and take a relaxing moment and just close your eyes. Sit back, close your eyes, and just settle in with your breath. And what we're gonna do is a breathing exercise that's gonna have us almost hyperventilate and breathe extremely quickly. And then we're gonna slow it down into the present moment. So if you want to, just follow me. All righty. So you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Just continue to speed that up quicker and quicker. To a place where you're breathing extremely quick in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then after a little bit, I invite you to start slowing your breath down, nice and slow. Notice that sensations in your body. Notice your body starting to relax and your breath starting to come back to its natural rhythm. And then I invite you to bring that breath into your belly. And just imagine inflating your belly like a balloon. And see when we're most relaxed. And invite that breath into our belly. That is when we are at most relaxed. Just take a couple moments just to breathe and find that relaxation. Just notice how you feel. And whenever you're ready, we're going to get the group back here in about 30 seconds. So if you can just wrap up, coming into the present moment. All righty, so I invite everyone back. And once again, so my name is Jamie Hazelton, Integrative Health and Wellbeing Coach. I run my own practice, Whole You Health, and my practice is focused, it's a general health coaching practice where I help people achieve their optimal health and well-being. But I also have a special emphasis on working with workplace professionals, hardworking professionals who might need help creating a healthy work-life balance. And then I also work with the LGBT community. So a wide spectrum of individuals who may be needing help coming out or transitioning, transition 101 topics, or anything that they need in pursuit to live into their truest and most authentic self. So those are the two niches that I definitely work with most, but I do have a general health coaching practice where I work with many different people. So as we get started, I'm going to share the screen again, and we're going to explore with this idea of breaking free of society's definitions of health. And so as I alluded to a little bit earlier, we really, in society today, we talk about health in the terms of only eating healthy, diet, exercising, as well as having the absence of disease. While those things are necessary for having good health, that doesn't mean just because you have a disease doesn't make you an unhealthy person, or just because you're in really good shape and eat healthy doesn't necessarily make you a healthy person. So today's objective is to break free of these society definitions and learn more about the expansiveness of what health is. So to get started, I want to talk about health in the realms of my own story. So I have an unconventional view of health. You see, as I was raised, I lived in northern Minnesota, and I had a great childhood. I had great family. I had great friends. Growing up, we had a lake cabin, and many of my greatest memories were on that lake cabin. It was truly such a joy to live there. And really, I had an excellent childhood. It was a very privileged childhood, I could say. So as I had great well-being and a good childhood, up until about my junior year of high school, there started to become a switch within me. And that switch that happened within me was my well-being started to be determined about my gender dysphoria because I was having some incongruencies with my gender. You see, growing up with a great childhood, I grew up a boy. And even though I grew up a boy and was always aware of having gender incongruencies and wishing that I could live as a female, as a woman, it never really affected my well-being. And so my entire childhood, good well-being, and then at that junior year mark, it started to transition for me, and I really started having suffering from body dysphoria. I really started suffering from mental dysphoria and how I just navigated through this world. So from junior year, my well-being started to decrease, and it started to nosedive, and my well-being started to get really terrible, and I was suffering from really bad depression. And I kept getting more and more depressed until about my freshman year of college. And that was truly one of the low points in my life. And in fact, fall of my freshman year, I got so low, I got to the point where I wasn't sure how much further I could go in life living the way I was. I was really challenged, and I couldn't see myself living for much longer. And this scared me, and I didn't know what to do. And so I took a brave stance because I knew, I couldn't do this alone anymore, or else I was going to end up not being around anymore. I was going to end up taking my own life. So I decided to tell my sister. So Thanksgiving of 2011, I told my sister that I was trans. And that was a really scary moment for me, something that I couldn't imagine myself doing even a month before, but it got to the point where I was so low where I just felt like I had to do it. So I told her, and she accepted me. But for many people who might not even be familiar within the LGBT community or so, there's this idea that as soon as you come out, it's like you have this big weight off your shoulders. Life is so much better. Well, for me in my story, I heard of this narrative, but it didn't match with me. See, this narrative was actually quite the opposite, where I actually felt worse. I was scared because I had just told my sister my deepest, darkest secret. And now I had to trust her with my secret. Before I had complete control, now I didn't have control because my sister knew this thing that was so innocent and so vulnerable of mine. Well, it turns out that my sister didn't keep my trust, and she ended up outing me to my parents. And my parents, they confronted me with it, and they showed their complete support. And then, so that support, even though I hated the moment and coming out and doing those things and being outed, and my depression kept getting worse because through all of this, my depression was getting worse, but being outed, even though I hated it, was giving me some motivation just to keep going for another better day. And I lived like that for about 2 years, where I slowly came out to my family and a couple close friends. And then in 2013, my depression and my just complete dysphoria of living the world and navigating the world as a male in society was just crushing, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I made the choice to transition, and I moved from Minnesota. I left one morning in June, Minnesota boy, and I arrived the next day in Colorado as a girl. And as I arrived in Colorado, as most people would think, it was a great time. It was a time of celebration. I can be there. I can start living my true, authentic self, which I started to do. But you see, as I transitioned in the 21 years prior to that, I grew up in a world that saw trans people as less than. If you watch any media representation of trans before 2013, most of it was making fun. We trans people were the butt ends of the jokes. They're always seeing trans people as less than, and I internalized those things as true to me. So I saw myself navigating through this world as a trans person as less than, as someone who doesn't deserve as much as a person who's living as a cisgendered life. Cisgender meaning living as you were born. You identify if you're a female and identify as female, you're cisgender. So I saw myself as less than those because I felt like they viewed me as less than. And that was completely internalized, and that was a huge battle. So my goal of this then was to transition as fast as I can and then get to my 1 year mark. And once I got to my 1 year mark, I was planning on being stealth, passing. So living in a world where I was stealth, no one knew I was transgender, and I could just live life as the female I desired to be. And I know for many trans individuals, this is the conception that we have, that we can move from this place of being so depressed and in our bodies that we're born as, and then finally pass as the gender as we desire. And then that's going to lead us to complete and utter happiness. But in reality, for my reality, that was not true. Because once I got to that place where I did pass and I did live as the gender as I desired, I no longer, I still was experiencing trans issues. But what I found was when I came out of the closet, then I lived out for a little bit, and then I went back into the closet. And I didn't have that community to support me with my trans issues. And so what happened to me again was my well-being started to decrease, and it started to go fast again. And for the second time within a couple years, I went into this deep, dark depression. And I once again found myself with impulsive thoughts constantly to take what I thought at the time was the easy way out and discontinue my life. And it was a time that scared me. But being the stubborn person that I was, I didn't want to take that route. So I decided to once again take a leap of faith, and I got help. I went to a therapist, an amazing therapist who sat by my side and used many also similar coaching strategies. And I sat next to this therapist, and we worked together 2 days a week, every week for 2.5 years. And I moved from this place of being so depressed to literally crawling my way out of the hole and fighting every single day to try to make myself just feel okay. Well, after 2.5 years of fighting and scrapping and changing the narrative of my own perspective, I finally moved into a place where I was no longer living in this dysfunctional world, but rather this okay functional world. And I was no longer hated being trans anymore. I moved into a place where being trans was just okay. And I think that's a very similar realm of health today. It's like when we think of health, it's either you're healthy or not healthy. If you're not healthy, that means you're dysfunctional and you have dysfunctional aspects about you. And if you're healthy, you're functional. Well, I got to this point after 2.5 years of finally just being functional and okay, but I still felt like there's more. You know, I'm okay, but I want more in my life. I don't want to just be okay. And I didn't know how to do this until one day I was driving in a car with one of my close friends who happened to be my assistant hockey coach at the time. It was November 3rd, 2016. And that morning, I was not feeling very happy. And I decided to take another brave stance. And I knew what I ended up having to do to enter into this world outside of okay was come out to more people and tell people I was trans, because I was still very much stealth, not telling people I was trans. So I decided to tell my friend that I am transgender. And he's a cisgender straight male. And but he's one of the most loving and compassionate people I knew. So I felt like, you know, if I told him, I could be safe. So I ended up telling him, and for the first time in my life, I had someone respond to me after telling them I was transgender in a positive way. They saw me not just as me, but they saw me as a better version of me. They thought my trans identity was an asset to my character. And that was something that was unbelievable, because there's the true, authentic, vulnerable aspect of him where I knew it was true. And seeing that and feeling that within my heart, it really took me and just spun my worldview. And from that moment on, I started to slowly but surely come out to more people. And now I live in a world where I feel I'm trending, instead of this functional world where I'm just okay, I'm treading into this world of optimal well-being, an optimal place where I feel truly, I can say that I'm proud to be transgender, because I'm now in a space where I know I wouldn't be who I am today without all those experiences, from being at the depths of the dysfunctional, unhealthy realms to a place of functional and okay, and crawling and working every single step of the way to enter into the space of optimal. And that would not be true if it wasn't for this gift of being trans. So this is my story of health. And you see, when I look at this, and I think you guys look at this, you can tell that I was not healthy. But what's interesting about the fact of I was not healthy through any of this experience, by society and media and even many doctors' standards, I was. You see, I had one of the best diets I've ever had during that time. I was very conscious about what I was eating. Additionally, I had routine exercise and I was always moving. I was in one of the best physical shapes of my life during this time. And then not only that, I had blood work done, because as a trans person, you get blood work done about every 3 months, 6 months. And my blood work came back phenomenal every single time, and no disease. So if you look at health in the terms of diet, exercise, and disease, I was very healthy. But something was still missing over here where I was still not healthy. And I think that's because so much emphasis is put on what society and media says, and even what Western medicine, conventional medicine says, that this is what health is. This is what health is right here. Slim for life, burn 800 calories in one fast workout, 10 foods that boost your mood. We have diet, we have exercise, and slash your breast cancer risk now. We have disease. And this is not just it. There's still more. We're constantly inundated by these messages. Oops. So here's a couple magazines of health magazines. So the definition of health is within this magazine, as media says. And it's constantly, look at these headlines: banishing belly fat, fight, flab, and win, burn fast, fat fast. You know, always foods that melt fat. It's always focused on what we're eating and how we're exercising. And these are constantly everywhere. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if you guys saw the magazine covers, but just going to go back again. So here's the magazine covers, and it's always health related, how you look. Okay. And so this is what society always tells us is healthy. And it's everywhere. It's on our magazine covers. It's on social media. Okay, here's the social media. This is how your body's supposed to look. This is how your food is supposed to look. It's supposed to look green. It's supposed to look juiced. It's supposed to look healthy. But in reality, this is what society puts as what is health. And then in reality, this is more of a general idea of what it actually kind of looks like. And when we look at this kid, yes, he's not eating healthy. He does suffer from obesity, and he probably has a lack of physical exercises, but health goes beyond this. What's going on with this kid? You know, because of what his lifestyle is like, what is his mental health like? Is this kid being bullied at school? Does he have support at home to help him make proper decisions? So what does this look like? And the thing about society is we have this reality over here of unhealthiness. And I'm saying healthy beyond this, and I'm going to get into what healthy is in the next couple slides. But then we have this expectation. And this is where there's a huge gap between reality and what is expectation. And what seems to happen in the means of society is we try to fix it with this, pills. And many doctors, and my significant other is a doctor, and they do. And I think doctors have the biggest heart, and they're there to serve and help people. And when they work with people, they try to get people to do the change lifestyle behaviors first. But then they come back and they fail, and their blood pressure is so hard. The next thing they have to do in order to focus on this person's life is give them a pill. And so they give them a pill for blood pressure. They might give them a pill for depression, but the root cause is never fixed. So we're constantly always getting these pills. And that seems to be what the fix is. So the problem is our definition of health. And what is health? You see, I believe instead of diet, exercise, and disease, all those are important aspects, this is more what health looks like. Health is what these 6 dimensions are, plus more. So one thing I want to notice is I'm going to put out 2 models today. This is the first model of what is health. And then we have a second model, which I'll get to later. Models do not represent reality. They are a representation of what reality can be. But this does not mean that all of these things encompass you. So I name my practice Whole You Health, because at Whole You Health, we focus on the whole you, all these different aspects, from your physical health to your mental health, spiritual health, what your environment is like, your career, as well as your well-being. And each of my clients, when they come in, they get assessed on what's called the Wheel of Health. So the Wheel of Health, once again, is another model of health, of holistic health. And these are 12 characteristics that I believe are good representations of what people can control on their daily basis. So whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, these are all things that we have general control of. Even though we might not think we have a ton of control over stress, we really do. And that's what I work with people, is I help empower them to take control of all these areas so they're more well-rounded. So I'm going to explore each of these different areas of the health wheel, because I think they're crucially important. So I'm going to start with diet and exercise. So as I mentioned, diet and exercise is an important aspect of health, but we have too much emphasis on diet and exercise. What diet is, though, is food, healthy foods. So healthy foods are important because food is information for the body. If your body doesn't have the proper information, your body is not going to function properly. Same with exercise. Exercise is extremely important in that regards, and making sure that we're staying physically in shape for lasting well-being, and how we prevent and are able to lean towards more healthy options. Then we have sleep, and sleep is one of the most underrated aspects of health. And I have it under here as physical health category, but it could be also in other things. But sleep is vitally important. We live in a society where we try to brag about having only 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep. But in reality, sleep, we need 6 to 8, maybe even 9 hours of sleep, because what sleep does is it helps us rejuvenate our bodies. It helps our minds consolidate memory, as well as our brains are like a toilet where it flushes. So every night when we sleep, our brains flush and it releases all those toxins out, and it allows for healthy brain life. And those are a couple aspects of physical health. And I have physical health here as an umbrella term. So this is one thing like such as cancer and disease. So that is one thing that could be under this term of physical health. In society today, we have this idea that because you have a disease makes you unhealthy. Well, you're not unhealthy. You're a person with a disease. You're not that disease. A person who has diabetes is not a diabetic person, because diabetes is not that person. They're a person with diabetes. A disease does not constitute who you are. It might constitute something that you have or are a part of, but it does not constitute who you are. Therefore, if you have a disease, know that you can also be healthy in many realms. So like the cancer patient that I was talking about, cancer is something that is very devastating on the body and even many other aspects of our health. And so we go to the doctor and have them try to treat cancer. But what we don't focus on as much, and what I think we need to start trending towards, is making these other aspects of health healthier. So making their diet healthier, their mental health healthier, their spiritual health. Because what we find in research is when that area is healthier, that person has a higher likelihood of overcoming the cancer. So by making people healthy outside of their disease has them a better chance of managing or fighting the disease by which they hold. And so that's just physical health. And then we enter into mental health. And mental health is something that was neglected for so long. And it's so important because now there's a lot more visibility coming along because of mental health. And because of the visibility, that's one of the reasons why I went and sought help. Because I knew at the end of the day, it was going to be okay to see mental health. And I was not my mental health disorder. And when it comes to mental health, many of you people kind of wonder what's the difference between a therapist and a health coach. And this comes into this idea of dysfunction and function and optimal. So what I would say is the difference between a therapist and a health coach is therapists more focused on this mental health aspect, especially the dysfunctional to functional area in between. So therapists work on helping people with what's going on in their life, mental health, and that's a lot of the DSM-5 characteristics where a lot of diagnoses happen. And they work on bringing them from maybe a more dysfunctional place into a functional realm. And that's the difference between a coach and a therapist. Is that the coach, we focus more on this holistic realm and we do not diagnose. So there's this huge perception and huge focus on the dysfunctional aspect. And that is being good. That's good to say because we really need a lot of help and a lot of support in these areas because there's a lot of mental illness going on. Along with a lot of mental illness that's happening, there's a lot of stress as well. We live in a very stress-filled society, and it's like we're almost normalizing this idea that having this tremendous amount of stress is okay. Well, it's not. In reality, little stress is good, but having the amounts of stress that we have is not good for our health. And this goes back to my own story. When this whole entire time before, when I was transitioning and coming out and then going back in the closet and so forth, I was suffering from immense GI issues. I was going to the doctor constantly to try to figure out what was going on within my own stomach because I was having immense pain. And then finally, when it got to the point where I was finding functional into more optimal, all of those issues started to go away. And the doctors before could never figure out what was going on. But looking back now, I think there's a very high probability that it was stress. And stress is not just physical or mental, it's physical and mental. Physical stress can create mental stress, and mental stress sure can create physical stress. They're very interconnected. But then that's a big focus, mental health. We focus on this dysfunction and function well to function well, but there's so much more. Like anything, it's a big spectrum, such as gender or sexuality. There's a big spectrum. We paint many things as black and white, but it's a spectrum. It's huge, and you can flow in and out of many different areas. And so as mental health, there's also a functional realm as well as living in this optimal world. And in this optimal world, I believe that comes with being intellectual. And intellectual and getting your intellectual needs, that's maybe what many of you guys are doing today and listening to this webinar, is fulfilling those intellectual needs, because that can help you move into more of this optimal space. But then there's also the indigenous cultures, and indigenous cultures are very body centered. And so in Western society, we really focus on stimulating our mind, but like many past indigenous cultures, which many of us, I believe we should learn from, we also need to focus on stimulating our body centers as well. Making sure that we're stimulating our heart. How many of you guys have heart feelings? Your chest tighten up or your heart gets big when you're in high emotional areas, whether they're good or bad, or you're getting that gut feeling. So making sure, some people call these their intuition. So we need to make sure that we also build up our intuition and find spaces where we can build and joy and love in our heart, as well as making sure that we're really informing these areas to make these areas better and using them as reliable resources. Because in reality, our heart and our bodies are very reliable resources, and they tend to steer us in the right direction. So listening to these areas and making them as best as we possibly can. And then we have spiritual health. And to be honest, when I started my program, it was through the Center of Spirituality. And I thought it was so funny because I'm the least spiritual person ever. At the time, I considered myself atheist. There's no afterlife. Worms eat your eyeballs. And I know for many other people, spirituality to them is extremely important. There's Christianity, there's Islam, there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism. There's so many different spiritualities, and it's very unique to the person. And as a coach, I honor that uniqueness in that spirituality that you hold. And it's very vital to health. Because as I mentioned, I wasn't a spiritual person, but as I evolved in my program and then evolved into a more optimal space, I would say my spiritual health is one of the reasons why I moved into more of this optimal realm, because I feel like I'm making sense of something and I'm actually contributing to something. And that's what I term as spiritual health, as contributing to something that is greater than yourself and having the ability to contribute to that thing that is bigger than you. And I think that definition goes for so many religions and creeds and even just anyone who may even consider themselves atheists. You all have the ability to contribute and be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that connection from you to something that is bigger than yourself, that is so important for your health, I believe comes through your purpose. So your purpose is that tether that tethers you to that something that's bigger than yourself. And by living through your purpose and by going into your purpose, that can help you connect. And so that is that tether, the purpose and that drive. So my purpose, for example, I'm here and here's something, the greater humanity up here. My purpose is to help develop people. So because by me helping develop people, moving them along the spectrum into optimal, I feel like then they're greater people and they can help more people and then they can help more people and that can just help the greater good of humanity. And that comes through my purpose of developing people. And this development and purpose is supported by our relationships in our community. That is the pillars that lift up the tether and continue it into the higher realms of contributing to something greater than itself. And that is why relationships and community are so important, among other things. People who have great community and great relationships tend to have, what is into my next one, a better overall well-being. So as I mentioned earlier, overall well-being, we have this idea of what is health in society. And what health is in society is this focus on diet, exercise, and disease. And those are all objective categories. And we live in science is a very objective world and we need objective data. But what we really miss out is on the subjective data. You see, the subjective data is how am I doing? During all that time when I was transitioning, I was not healthy because many of these aspects in my life that are on this wheel were not being completed and were not doing well, even though 3 of them were doing well. and that was over here, the expansive was not doing well. And that was more of my subjectiveness. And so we meet to make sure that we're subjectively feeling good. We felt we have a good well-being. And one way that comes through is financials. Financials is very important. We need to make sure that we can pay our way through life, that we have enough to buy food, have shelter, clothing, meet our basic needs. But then I mentioned it's like a spectrum, because if we have too much money, sometimes what can happen is we get laser focused on this idea that material goods make us happy. And we buy these things, we have this dopamine rush, we feel really good, and then all of a sudden this loses interest. And that's another thing called a hedonic treadmill. And I could do a whole nother presentation on this, but in reality, that doesn't create real happiness. So it's this balance of having just enough money to fulfill our needs, but not too much money where we buy things that we think will make us happy, and living within this balance. And then we have security and making sure your environment is secure and you are secure within your financials and many other aspects. And then we have your career. And many people spend a lot of time in their career, much of their life, and it's important that that brings some satisfaction, because many people find their purpose through their career. So as you look at this wheel, I want you to imagine it as a wagon wheel on like a covered wagon. So if this wagon wheel is perfectly round, it's going to make the ride a lot smoother. But if something's not doing well, for example, and this wagon wheel, the trim starts going in and this area is not doing well, so this part of the wheel is a lot lower over here, this is not as good, optimal as out, then the wheel is not going to be as round. And what that creates is an unsturdy wheel. Things are going to be a lot bouncier, rockier, as well as that wheel is going to be more likely to break. But then there's the other side. So as I just mentioned, it's important to focus on all these different aspects of health. But like I mentioned earlier, this is just a model of health. And since this is a model of health, this is not reality. So this model shows 12 equal pies. But it's not. They're all extremely interconnected. For example, if you're not happy at your career, you're going to have higher stress. If you have higher stress, you're more likely to suffer from a mental disorder. If you have a mental disorder, you're more likely to have less diet, bad sleep, poor exercise, and then you're probably going to have another disease from physical health. And then this might lead you to not seeing your community as much, might lack a purpose. As you can see, they're all intertwined and very, very interconnected. So it's important to know that this health is holistic and it's very interconnected. And so this is a model of health. So what does health really look like? And this is where I invite you to enter into that space of a beginner's mind. And this is going to be a guided imagery of what we're going to explore of what health really looks like. So this is a guided imagery, and what I'm going to be ending up doing is talking you through a thing. Like at the beginning, we're going to have everyone close their eyes, settle into your breath, and then we're going to play an imaginary movie within our head. Okay? So I invite everyone to take a seat and sit down and close your eyes again. And I really encourage you, this can be a very transformative time here in this guided imagery. Close your eyes and connect to the present moment. Breathe in and out and just relax. And then I invite you to go into your mind's eye. And like on the inside of your forehead, there's a little movie screen. And I invite you to look at this movie screen and picture a mirror hanging on a wall. And I invite you to notice that this mirror is a full body mirror. And I invite you just to get really detailed about the mirror. Noticing how long it is, the shape. Does it have a frame or not? If it has a frame, what are the details of the frame like? And as you're getting curious about this mirror, beginner's mind, like the first time you've ever seen a mirror, I want you to know that this is a special mirror, a magic mirror. And this mirror allows you to see the future. So I invite you, within the whole self you are, take a step in front of that mirror. And in the mirror, you'll see a reflection of your future optimal self. And just take time to look at the self. Start at the feet and just work your ways up. Looking at your body. This is maybe that health magazine cover of who you want to be. That's realistic and optimal for you. And then I invite you to look at your face, your future optimal self face. Just look at it. Notice what you see. Notice your eyes. And then, as I mentioned, this is a magic mirror. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer our consciousness from our current self into our future self when I say go. So I invite you now to transfer that consciousness into that future self and seeing the world as that future optimal self. We're going to take it slow and take time and get used to it. So I invite you to look down at your hand and move your hand around. Notice what that feeling is like. Just get prepared and just feel what your new body is like. Maybe roll around your shoulders. I then invite you to move out of the body in the physical and start moving inwards. And notice, I want you to notice, invite you to notice what you feel like. What are your energy levels like? What is your confidence like? What is your self-esteem like? I invite you to notice, to look back from your future self, to look back and notice everything that you've overcome. Such as my story of resiliency and coming through, you have your own story as well. And so holding power to that story of everything that you have overcome to be at this point of who you are now in your future optimal self. And noticing, maybe it brings a sense of pride, maybe empowerment. Noticing how it makes you feel to be in this future optimal self. I then invite you to celebrate. Life is about celebrating accomplishments. So what we're going to do to celebrate as our future optimal self is, in your mind's eye, we're going to go to your favorite place in the world, wherever that is. And so I invite you, go to this place now. And as you arrive, look around. Notice what you see. Notice maybe you're indoors, maybe you're outdoors. Notice what the landscape is like. Notice the temperature. Just take time to look around and just notice these feelings. Notice what you see. And then invite you to notice what you smell. Maybe it's something like flowers, or maybe it's your favorite food on the grill, who knows? But I invite you to notice what you smell. I then invite you to take times with the smell and then noticing as well as what you hear. If there's people there, maybe you hear laughter, maybe you hear music. If it's quiet, maybe you hear the breeze or waves crashing into the beach. Just taking time to notice all the senses, what you feel, what you touch, what you see, what you hear, what you smell. I then invite you to notice if there's anyone there with you to celebrate. To have you be there and celebrate of everything that you've overcome to be where you are now. And I invite you just to take a couple moments to live in this moment of celebration and feeling the joys that it may bring to you. And as we wrap up with this guided meditation, guided imagery, I still want you to be in your future optimal self. And I want you to feel and notice as you celebrated one characteristic that you love about yourself in that future optimal self, whether that's being more outgoing, more confident, maybe having higher energy, whatever that characteristic is. I invite you to notice a characteristic. And then I invite you to notice that this characteristic in this world is physical. And you can hold it here in your hands. It's right here with you in your hands. And what I want you to do is package it up. Package it up and put it in something that you can bring with you, whether that's a backpack, purse, bag, whatever you can do. Package up this characteristic that you love about your future optimal self. When I say when, we're going to come back to our current self with that characteristic. Alrighty, so I invite everyone to come back. And I appreciate everyone, and I hope you have that characteristic. We're going to get back to that characteristic in a little bit. But in reality, I think this guided meditation had a greater idea, a greater representation of what is health. And it's the same as this picture that I have up here. So this picture is a landscape. It has the water, it has the trees, it has the rock. And it's all super important. And all of it is holistic. Every part of this picture is important to the picture. It is also very interconnected. You can barely tell where the leaves start and end, the branches, and it all comes together to make something that's beautiful. And this is exactly what your health is. Your health is like this picture. Instead of health being like a magazine, try to model health after something like nature, ecological. Knowing that your health is also holistic, as I mentioned before. It is also very interconnected. If you have a great career, you're going to have less stress. If you have less stress, you're going to have greater mental health. If you're in mental health, better physical health, spiritual health, etc. It's all very interconnected and it's all very dependent on each other. And it all comes together to make your health beautiful. And I truly believe that your health is unique and your health is beautiful. And your health is very individualized. And your health is a representation of you. And I believe you are holistic. You are interconnected and you are beautiful. There's many different aspects that make you, you. And they're all very interconnected. And by all that interconnected and holisticness, it makes you beautiful. So what does health look like? I believe it really looks like that person that you saw in that guided imagery. And even further than that, it looks like who you are now. When you stand in front of a mirror, and see your current reflection, that is what health looks like. So anytime you stop and look in a mirror, I want you to think of health. I want you to think that you're holistic, you're interconnected, all those aspects are interconnected, and you are beautiful. And it all starts with obtaining this future optimal self that you may want to be with a seed. And that characteristic that I had you have in your guided imagery, that is your seed. That seed holds all the information that you need. All that inner wisdom to grow into something beautiful, you already hold. It's within you, like that seed. All you need to do is plant that seed, give it attention, and let it grow. Let it flourish. So I invite you all to let your seed grow. Plant it today and let it flourish into something beautiful. Because the decision you make today, now, if you decide to plant your seed today, will impact your future tomorrow. For example, 5 years ago, I decided to seek out therapy. I spent $10,000 on therapy to plant that seed. And that $10,000 that I spent on that was definitely well worth it for me. And I planted that seed to be who I am today. And it was that decision that I made 5 years ago that allowed me to prosper. So the decisions you make today impact your future for tomorrow. So I invite you today to make that positive decision to make a positive impact on your future. And I want you to ask yourself, what would you invest? To have that seed blossom into something beautiful, to be that person in the guided imagery that you desire and want to be. So I invite you, plant that seed and let it come grow with me as a coach. I want you to come work with me and grow your seeds into this beautiful uniqueness that you are. So I invite you to come invest in your future and come and try out a 3-month package. So my 3-month packages usually are $500 to $650. That's income based. So I do income based coaching because I believe coaching should be affordable to all. And so I do income based coaching, and for a typical 3-month package, it's $500 to $650. And I want everyone has a seed, everyone can grow it. And so because of this webinar and you guys showed up and everyone that's watching on the recording as well, I want to do a shout out to you. I'm going to give you guys a special webinar offer and give you 20% off. And so you're going to be paying $400 to $520 for a 3-month package. Not only that, I'm going to give you guys a free 5-day self-care challenge. So this is a $150 value. My self-care challenge is basically holistic self-care. So we focus on all these different aspects of health that we mentioned today, and we package them into a self-care practices. So not only are you going to learn about different holistic self-care packages, but you're also going to feel the benefits of different holistic self-care. So that's a $150 value. Not only that, I'm going to give you one more thing, and that is a complimentary follow-up session. So it's important that as we grow as individuals, that we constantly have people to support us, and we can do rechecks and make sure we're continuing on the growth that we desire and want to go towards. So after the 3-month, anytime after that, you guys can come back in and you have a complimentary follow-up session just to make sure that you're keeping on the course that is best for you in your life. So that's up to $400 in savings just by you coming to this webinar. But that's not why I'm here, because I'm here because I know coaching works. So I have these deals here, and I would love it if you guys would come and check it out and try out coaching for yourself to grow into that functional, even more optimal realm. But I also know that I'm here because I just want to help people. And I've helped many people just like you. And I work with the expansiveness of health, and I work with people who have stress, burnout, need help with work-life balance, chronic disease, to LGBT health, chronic, and any other disease or anything. I do a general care practice. And with the clients that I've had in the past, I've helped them grow and succeed. And it's really fun and really cool to see. So I want to help you too and improve your health and well-being. And so here are a couple things that I've seen within my own coaching. So the assessment score that I had before that I give out to everyone, that's out of 120 points possible. I never tell my clients how many points is possible because it's really not about reaching 120 points. What it's about is seeing growth within yourself, and not only just like seeing it on a chart, but actually feeling like you're growing as well. So here's our couple scores. So we had April, who went from a 55 to 92. So great growth. We have Pat, we have Katie, who went from 53 to 85, and Angie and Denise, and all these people are growing. And it's really fun to see these people grow with me. And I do it because I love to see their smiles and see them become happy. I had this one client who had a traumatic brain disease who I'm publishing a paper about, and just seeing her smile and her love for life to come back again, it's really transformative and something that I love to do. And that's why I love to coach, is because I love helping people and I love helping them find success and a love for life. So many of you guys know that, as you heard my story, I came from a place that was really deep and dark. And as I lived in this deep and dark, it was lonely and isolating. And then I started to move with the help of people and move into this place of more functional and even optimal. And I want other people to experience that too. I really do. I really want to give back to the communities of what my therapist gave me and my community gave me, to grow and allow yourself to prosper. That's why I coach, because I want to help people. And so with that, I know I can help you too. I know I can help you flourish. And I promise I'm ready to work with you. And I want you guys to ask yourself, are you ready to make that decision today to positively impact your future tomorrow? To make how you feel in this guided meditation a reality, and save up to $400 to do it. And if you're not ready, I hope you are. Message me right now if you are ready. I would love to hear from you. But if you're not, that's okay. I want you to know that your health is holistic, your health is interconnected, and your health is truly beautiful. And to finish off today, I want to end with Gandhi. And Gandhi is one of my favorite spiritual teachers. And he says, be the change you want to see in the world. And I believe that's because the reason why he said this is because you're the only person that can change, that can make that change. No one else can make the change that you can. And you all have this place in this world. And if you want to see the world change for the better, practice change yourself. So that is me. My name is Jamie Hazelton, Integrative Health and Wellbeing Coach. My practice is Whole You Health. So if you guys want, I'm going to have questions. We're 3 minutes over, so if you guys need to go, that's fine. But if you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to unmute yourself and ask any questions. And if you guys want to also sign up, you can do it at my website, and I'm gonna put that link there. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Yes, I just got a message, private message. I wanted to thank you again. I want to, Abhishek, thank you so much. Hope you guys can definitely join me. So yeah, thanks again. Any other questions before we end this today? All righty. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you have any questions, you can email me, contact me through this. I'm going to have the promotion deal good through the end of the week. So if you guys want to take light of this promotion, or even talk to me, even if that's something out of your range, come and talk to me, and I'm happy to work with you and have a price that's more reasonable that works with you, because I care about all people. So, all righty. Thank you all.